I've been watching a lot of the news. I've been seeing a lot of talk about inflation, about macroeconomics. A lot of people are talking about Tesla stock is down. They're blaming it on macroeconomics. I just wanted to talk about this. Here's what I see. I've been concerned about inflation, macroeconomics, and particularly government for close to 10 years now, if not longer. And what I see is, where's this inflation coming from? And what you'll see is the Democrats are pointing fingers at the Republicans are pointing their fingers at the Democrats, and libertarians like myself, we're pointing the fingers at both of them. Here's where I see the source of inflation, supply chain, all this stuff that's going on. No, inflation is real. It's all driven by government spending and government printing money. Okay, the Federal Reserve has been printing money. First of all, you go back to 2008, you had the financial crisis, which was caused by government policies back around 2000, where they've pushed banks to lend more money to people who didn't have good credit, and that led to the subprime lending, and that led to the mortgage crisis, and that led to a financial crisis, and that led to a government bailout of banks that shouldn't have happened, and it led to government printing a lot of money. So the rate at which money was being printed accelerated in around 2008, 2009. Now you get forward to 2019, and we had a public health situation that I'm not going to speak because I'm going to put this video on YouTube later and I don't want to get censored. Donald Trump and the Federal Reserve went bananas, spending money like crazy, printing money like crazy. They literally quintupled the supply of money. The M1 number, if you Google M1 Fred, they literally quintupled the supply of money in 2 years. We went from $4 trillion M1 to $20 trillion M1 in 5 years. They printed more money. Not only did they print more money than had ever existed before, they printed 4 times as much money as had ever existed before. They went crazy. So all this money seeps into the economy in different ways. And here's the answer. This thing is, the Republicans will say, we need to do this. The Democrats apparently think we need to tax billionaires, and this is the solution to the problem. I don't know how taxing billionaires is going to solve the problem of the supply chain crisis for baby formula. I don't see that working. The Democrat answer is spend more money. The Republican answer is spend more money over there. Neither one of them has an answer that involves spending less money. Lately, I've been particularly critical of the Democrats, but I'll be just as critical of the Republicans on this, if not more so. Ronald Reagan doubled federal spending and tripled the debt. George W. Bush radically increased federal spending, radically increased the debt. Donald Trump radically increased federal spending, radically increased the debt. Bush Light, and I call him Bush Light instead of like his father's more weighty. Bush Light and Donald Trump, both massive increases in money printing. That is the Federal Reserve, but the president has influence over that. And all of this just leads to problems. The only way out of this is for government to cut back. We went from, if you go back to before, say, World War I, government, federal, state, and local combined, spent less than 5% of gross domestic product. Government was vanishingly small for most of U.S. history. For more than half of U.S. history, government was vanishingly small. And then what happened was, probably World War I, Woodrow Wilson, FDR in there, you started to see government, especially the federal government, start to grow. As the federal government grew, local and state government started to grow. And you started to get this insane growth in government. And now government spending is about 50% of GDP. Total, not just federal, state, local, schools. You add all the governments together, it's about 50% of GDP. And that's not good. That's not a capitalist economy anymore. That's not a free market anymore. We have an economy that is driven by government, and that leads to misallocation of resources. It leads to bad decisions, and it leads to crisis. It leads to problems. We are in this stunning world where China, which is run by the Chinese Communist Party, is more capitalist than America, which pretends to be capitalist. We have gone we haven't gone full socialist yet, but we're well on our way there. Never go full retard. We've gone way off the deep end. And there's a solution, and this is the challenge. I believe the answer is government has to cut back. Government has to get out of the way. Government has to get out of markets. Government has to let markets function. The free market is anybody who understands economics. I'm not including idiots like Robert Reich. I'm not including Elizabeth Warren. I'm not including the political figures. Anyone who understands neoclassical economics, the basic core economics that's taught in college, government gets in the way. Government interferes. Markets are good. Markets make mistakes. Markets aren't perfect. There arguably is a role for government in some ways to address market failures. but by and large, markets work and government decision-making, government control doesn't work. And this is what we have right now is a government-controlled economy. Government has too much control of the economy. Government needs to pull back. Now, on the Republican side, Republicans would not agree to cut military spending. Republicans would not agree to cut law enforcement. And you could bring all the troops home from all the countries in the world. I get arguments with Republicans all the time. Oh my God, we can't do that. I'm just going to say this to you. We're about to collapse our economy. I don't care what issue you care about most, whether you care about South Korea, North Korea, whatever the issue is, the drug war. I want to end the drug war. I want to open the borders. All of these things are ways we spend money that Republicans love to spend money on. Corporate subsidies, corporate welfare, whatever you want to call it. But there's all these ways where we spend money. The U.S. government, state and local governments spend money on all these things, and they are not productive. They don't make our economy better. They don't really make our society better. And you're wedded to whatever this issue is. And I'm just going to ask you this question. Are you willing to crash the U.S. economy for this? We are crashing the U.S. economy. We are entering a potentially hyperinflationary phase. We are going to high interest rates and high inflation. We are tanking the U.S. economy. We are destroying the engine that built what we live in today. We're destroying freedom. We're destroying everything that we believe in. Why? Because you want to keep troops in Botswana? You want to keep troops in Germany? When are we going to bring the troops home? That's the Republican side of it. The Democrat side is, oh, let's tax the hell out of everything. Let's spend the hell out of everything. You know what? It's time to cut the universities off. There shouldn't be federal student loans. Government shouldn't be giving universities money, period. Done. Cut them off. Welfare. It's over. No one's starving in America. End it. End it. You have to massively cut everything. Eric says supply chain disruption. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube later, this live stream started on the Locals platform, and people who are supporters on the Locals platform can contribute in the chat and can comment on the posts. So that's at warrenredlich.locals.com. Eric says supply chain disruption caused major part of inflation. Can government fix it? How can? No, government caused the supply chain problem. If you flood the economy with cash, the cash goes wherever it goes, and it leads to all kinds of issues. You stop looking for government to solve the problem and start figuring out how government is causing the problem. These problems are caused by government doing too much, not too little. Government always wants whatever resources it wants. It's never going to give up on getting the resources it wants. We need the American people to say we've had enough. The problem is too much government, not too little. Stop looking for the government to fix problems and start looking to get the government to stop causing problems. I can't say that enough. Inflation is caused. Just Google M1 Fred. I should have taken a screenshot of it and put it up on the screen. It's like a hockey stick. They've just been printing money. If you think there's no consequence to that, you just don't care. They'll tell you there's no consequence to it. Do you believe everything the government tells you? Come on. They're a bunch of liars. They're a bunch of corrupt liars. They're printing money. They're giving it to their friends. They're stealing money from the taxpayers. They're giving it to their friends. We are seeing the end of the American economy. Potentially seeing the end. I mean, we're on the precipice. Now, I'm sorry. The title of this video is about Tesla stock, and I want to address how this all plays into Tesla stock. So the first thing is we're looking at an inflationary environment, and we have other macro issues going on. And what you see is Wall Street saying, oh, we need to pull back from growth stocks when we have inflation and these macro problems. Are you kidding me? You want to hold cash instead of a productive asset? Tesla is a productive asset that is growing. You own Tesla stock, you own stock in a company that is productive, that is producing something of value, and that is growing fast. What is better to hold in an inflationary economic crisis than a company that's productive and growing and has succeeded in growing through a previous crisis? Tesla is the one. That's the one asset that's more safe than anything else. You're going to hold cash in an inflationary environment. You're going to hold cash. The cash is losing 10% of its value a year, if not 20. You don't want to hold cash. Commodities are interesting because there's some potential with commodities, but you just don't know what's going to happen with the commodity market. If all of a sudden a bunch of the nickel mines start pumping out stuff and nickel refineries start pumping out stuff, your commodities are sensitive. The one thing we know is that Tesla succeeds in difficult economic circumstances and grows in economic circumstances and produces something of value. What is a better thing to hold in an economic crisis than something that's productive and something that's growing? In the middle of everything else collapsing, everything else having problems, Tesla's done a better job on supply chain than anybody else. Tesla's, handled a lot of things better. I mean, the other thing I would say, by the way, so just be clear, now, not financial advice, blah, blah, blah. I'm not a financial advisor and whatever, but to me, I'm basically all in on Tesla. I think Tesla is the right investment to make in a time like this. But if you're looking at what's going on, you just like, there's a few things that cause this situation. One is the printing money. Two is government, too much control of the government economy. And in particular, we had a public health situation that led to massive increase in government control over not just our economy, but other economies. And we're seeing this in China right now, that they're locking things down. We know lockdowns don't work. We know all the things that they told us we needed to do don't work. You know what works? Just let people be free. That's the answer. We need to stop thinking there's a crisis and we need government to fix it. And we need to start recognizing that there's a crisis. Government probably caused it, like the public health crisis was probably caused by a government lab. Government funding a lab. Stop looking for government for the solution. Start figuring out, this is it. Government is the problem. Government printing money is the problem. Government spending too much money is the problem. Government having too much control of the economy is a problem. And Republicans are in on it and Democrats are in on it. And we need to start speaking up to Republicans and Democrats both and say, where are you going to cut spending? Right? Because they can't stop printing money as long as they're going to keep spending money. Right? Because the money's not there. They're not going to get it from the taxpayers because the taxpayers don't have it. The only way the government gets all this money is spending is by borrowing and taxing and printing money. Borrowing and printing money because the taxes won't work. And they're just printing money, and the government's spending it, and they're handing the money out to their bankster friends. This is all a disaster. This is all about to wreck the U.S. economy. We have this economic engine that has provided tremendous benefits to not only Americans, but to the world, and we are wrecking it. The federal government is wrecking it. The state governments are contributing to that. And I would just ask you to ask yourself this question. Are you, whatever you don't want us to stop spending money on, I would ask you this question. Are you willing to wreck the U.S. economy for that? Are you willing to destroy jobs? Are you willing to cause starvation? Are you willing to cause... There's women saying they can't get baby formula for their babies. I mean, we're literally to the point of starving babies. It's probably an exaggerated story, but we may not be that far from that. Are we that far from where Venezuela was a little while ago? Venezuela had hyperinflation. Are we sure we're not heading to a hyperinflation? This stuff is bad. This is a huge problem. We need to address it. And the answer is we've got to cut back government. We've got to cut government spending. We've got to cut government money printing. That's it. And there's so many ways we waste money. We need to go through the federal government and look at everything that it does and say, is this something we really need government to do? And the answer is almost always no. We don't need government funding universities, period. And if we're going to have government funding universities, why can't I read research articles? Why do I have to pay to access research articles if their research is funded by the government? This is ridiculous. It's government handing out money to academics. That's the university side of it. Then you got all the corporate welfare, government handing money to big corporations. End it. Mark Plott says the World Food Program has to short the hungry to feed the starving. I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether there's global starvation. I just know I'm hearing stories now about baby formula being short. Now, maybe that's like something that the Republicans are making up to make Joe Biden look bad. I have no idea. All I know is we are seeing prices go up on a lot of different things. Fortunately, I'm a Tesla driver, so the price of gas going up does not affect me. That's somebody else's problem, I guess I would say. But you're just seeing it in all sorts of ways. And real estate has gone insane. There's something going on where I think they're printing money and they're funneling it to BlackRock or whatever banks or whatever insiders are getting some of this money printed by the Federal Reserve, and they're pumping that into buying real estate. And real estate market has just gone crazy. I don't know what the explanation is for the real estate market going crazy, but even in places where people are moving away, people are leaving California, people are leaving New York, they're coming to Florida, they're coming to Texas. That makes sense for why Florida and Texas would see rising real estate prices. But New York and California real estate prices are rising when people are leaving. This doesn't make any sense. So, okay, I got my rant through. That's pretty much it. Housing shortage. The housing shortage is also driven by too much government control. Government doesn't allow, it's like Austin, Texas has, like, especially the city of Austin and Travis County, they make it hard to build. Generally speaking, Texas is friendly to housing. I think the housing shortage is a combination of zoning controls in some places and supply chain in other places. Someone I know is having a house built near me, and it was just taking longer and longer to get the house built because of supply chain issues. And this is a big builder. And they're struggling to get materials. There's labor shortages too. It's hard to get workers. I mean, I think there's a government policy of paying people to stay home. Well, why would anybody work if you're paying them to stay home? Right? I'm going to work because I want to work, but there's people like, wait, you're going to give me money to stay home and I can watch Netflix all day? They're going to take that. Foreign customers are buying high-value California properties to hold. We've had foreign buyers of properties in Miami, Russians and Brazilians and so on, been buying property in Florida for years. I think Chinese have been buying property. Lots of people are trying to get their money out of other places and buy assets here. That's been true for a while. I don't know if that's gotten worse or if that's just the same thing, but the market's just been flooded with so much cash. Thank you, Mark, for that comment. Thank you, Eric, for your comment. All right, so I didn't want to do a long time on this. I just wanted to stress, look, we're facing inflation. We may be facing, I've been talking about hyperinflation since 2013, if not longer. And I've been concerned that government printing money, at some point it's going to blow up in our face. Government overspending, at some point is going to blow up in our faces. I felt like Chicken Little because I've been saying the sky is falling for like 8-9 years now. Well, I think the sky may finally be starting to fall, and it's not going to be pretty. And ask yourself this question: What's going to slow inflation? What's going to slow inflation? It is a bubble caused partly by the Fed, and it's caused by the federal government overspending. People used to talk about a balanced budget. Nobody even bothers talking about a balanced budget anymore. And the answer isn't taxing more. The answer is spending less, and nobody gets it. Nobody in DC gets it. The enemy, and it's all this stuff. People hate Putin. People hate Kim Jong-un. They hate the Taliban. Whatever. The enemy of the American people is in Washington D.C., and it has been for over 200 years. And until we confront that enemy, and it's a bipartisan enemy, it's Republican and Democrat. It is a massive threat to the American way of life. We are about to see everything go crumbling down. This is not good. I think China might be able to survive an American collapse. I'm not sure. Rising interest rates banks benefit, Eric says. Yes and no. If the inflation is higher than the interest rates, then it's not that good for the banks either. Nobody wins. Nobody wins. This is a disaster. We need to get a handle on this. Biden wants to spend money on, I don't know, childcare. Wants to tax billionaires to spend money on childcare as if that solves the gasoline price problem. And then Republicans, when I see Josh Hawley said we need to open up oil drilling. Well, that's not going to solve gas prices tomorrow. That's going to address gas prices in a year or two. You don't start drilling an oil field and all of a sudden you have oil refined and ready on the gas pumps in a week. That's going to take a while to filter through too. None of them will talk about this. We need to end the U.S. We spend about $1 trillion a year on a military all over the world, and I don't care how much you cherish American military power and all the missions you think are important. If we destroy the U.S. economy, we won't be able to keep it up anyway. Right? Maybe we could be selective. Maybe we could bring all the troops home, restore the U.S. economy, and then we could start picking and choosing. I would say we don't do anything. But if you really, instead of having troops in 177 countries, maybe after that we could say, okay, maybe we can pick 2 or 3. I would say no, but let's bring it back. All right, so we're approaching 20 minutes. I want to thank everybody for watching. I'm going to put this on YouTube later. Thank you very much for supporting the Locals platform, the Daily Lie, warrenredlick.locals.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, please check out my other videos. Check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. And thank you so much for watching.